This is a beep show right here so far. Okay, well that's why you know what? That's why it's the last one of the year.
We clearly need a
We
break.
clearly we are losing it, ladies and gentlemen. We are losing our marbles.
All
Okay.
right, let's get started with some questions.
All right. So Ingrid from Sweden asks, "What's the one thing I should pack that travelers often forget?"
Okay, number one thing that people should pack that I think is a really, really good thing to remember is to take a reusable water bottle to New Zealand. I know that when you're traveling, a lot of places don't have safe drinking water, so it can be a thing that people forget to pack. But for New Zealand, the tap water, in the vast majority of cases, like 99% of the time, unless there is a sign saying don't drink this water, the tap water is really good, safe to drink, and perfect for using your bottle, refilling at the tap. There are water stations. There are water stations in like cities and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You can any kitchens basically you can refill your water
Yeah,
bottle.
I'm actually going to piggyback on that and actually give a recommendation. There is a company called LifeStraw that does water bottle with like filtration system in it, and we use that quite a lot in the South Pacific. As you can see below, we do also travel guides for the South Pacific. They are a pure lifesaver, and we absolutely love them. So yeah, and check those out. It's not sponsored or anything like that, but if you want the extra safety, that's the one I would go for. Cool. Fabio says, Fabio
Fabio
from
from Austria, he says.
Fabio from Austria asks if everything is okay in NZ with my friends. Of course it is. How are you doing, Fabio? And how cold is it in Austria at this time of the year? I bet it looks much more like Christmas than it does in New Zealand, where it's
It is
nice and summery.
super, super warm right now in New Zealand.
Yeah,
And also, we are coming up to like the longest days of the
yeah.
year. So, when people are putting out their Christmas lights, you actually don't really get to see them until
You have to be at
10.
10 p.m. and then you can see the Christmas
Yeah.
light. Our neighbor may have gone a little crazy on the Christmas light, and
She
it's
certainly
a live
did.
show. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Yeah, cool. But yeah, new format for the live show, Fabio. I don't know if you have seen this one, but yeah, basically we just kind of like do 20 questions about a certain subject that we received in the past. We collect them together. It's quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, we should
Um,
do that should be a title like 20 questions about New Zealand.
yeah,
Something like that.
every live show is that.
Oh, does it not say that in the title
Oh
anyway?
no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
that'd be a cool title.
Um, it is cold in Austria. We have about 0 degrees, and everybody has a cold, me included. Oh
Oh.
lord! Oh no! Oh gosh!
Well, we've got hay fever sniffles, if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah, and also we're losing our marbles because we lost our notes, which is interesting. Okay, next question on the list, Laura. The next questions come from. The next question comes from Raj from India, and he asks, "How much warm clothing do I really need for a summer trip to New Zealand?"
So, surprisingly enough, you should pack some extra warm layers. Not extra warm, but warm layers that are extra on top of your summer clothes. So, in the evenings in particular, or say you get a day where it's super cloudy and overcast, that will feel significantly chillier compared to when you have blazing hot sun
Yeah.
days. Although it does get really hot in summer in New Zealand, or especially the feeling of the heat from the sun is quite intense. As soon as that sun goes in, you'll feel the chill. So, definitely recommend packing a fleece or just sort of like an extra hoodie. And don't forget your rain jacket. Even in summer, that is actually the time when it is the rainiest in places like Milford Sound. The climate is very different in Milford Sound compared to the rest of the country, so pack a rain jacket as well. Warm fleece, rain jacket, also have those in your suitcase for summer.
I'm going to add something, Raj, because you're from India. We tend to always get people from India telling us that they actually did get cold in New Zealand despite traveling in summer. I'm obviously guessing that the temperature is vastly different between New Zealand summer and Indians even winter. So be aware of that and just pack the extra bit if you think that you're going to be affected by the cold. It's ultimately up to you to know how you're going to be dealing with the cold. On nzpocketguide.com, we have full packing list to help you out, so you may want to check that out. You go to nzpocketguide.com and then in the search bar, just type packing list, and we got you covered with full packing list for every season when traveling in New Zealand. All right. So the next questions come from Lucas from Italy. So, do I need hiking gear if I'm just doing touristy stuff? Asks Lucas from Italy.
You don't really have to have intense hiking gear if you're not planning on doing any hikes, but most of the attractions in New Zealand are outdoor attractions. They often involve a bit of walking, so usually even if you're just traveling and doing quick sightseeing stops, doing short walks to visit places, you will still be spending some amount
Yeah.
of time outdoors. And the weather in New Zealand is it's famous for having 4 seasons in a day. So having the outdoors gear like hiking pants that will quick dry in case it rains, or having your a rain jacket just in case, or an extra fleece layer just in case it's a bit chilly, like having those things is important.
Yeah.
So yeah, just sort of having some sort of basic hiking gear, comfortable walking shoes when you're traveling around New Zealand is a good way to go.
Indeed. Again, full packing list on nzpocketguide.com. Just head on the website and you'll find all your checklists and everything you can use to make sure that you have everything you need for your trip to New Zealand. All right. We have a question from Clara from France, and she asks, can I get away with packing light, or should I bring options for all weather?
You can get away with packing light. The key is to pack versatile, so have clothes that you can
Layer up.
layer up, layer down, that sort of thing. So you have your essential 1 or 2 mid layers. You have a few, well, basically t-shirts, say for about a week, and then you can use laundry facilities in New Zealand. There's plenty of them, and and then having that one rain jacket in your packing as well, and then wearing sort of the same comfortable walking or hiking shoes throughout your whole trip. Like when we did New Zealand's biggest gap year, which is when we did 365 days of 365 activities in New Zealand.
When we were young.
When we were young, we wore the same basically hiking shoes for the whole time we were traveling around New Zealand, because that basically fits into most scenarios. And then just having maybe a pair of flip-flops, otherwise known as jandals in New Zealand. They're very small and easy to pack into your bag if you want to wear something a bit more summery, or you're going to use like hostel showers, that sort of thing. So yeah, versatility is key when packing.
Yeah, the one thing I'm going to add, and Laura touched up on it very quickly, but there are a lot of laundry facilities in New Zealand, so you'll be able to do your laundry if you want to pack really light and kind of go to laundromat or everything like that. There are some in cities, and there are some in every hostel and kind of budget accommodation. As soon as you start going to like hotels and the like, anything above motel kind of quality, they usually wouldn't have a laundromat. They will actually have like an expensive laundry service. But if you stick to like motels and hostels, you should be good.
And holiday parks.
And holiday park, that's true. All right, more information for you, Clara, on NZ Pocket Guide to help you plan your trip. Okay. Again, if you guys are watching right now and you have any questions about traveling in New Zealand, go nuts. We are here to answer all your questions. The live chat is all yours for a full hour. And thank you to the 5 people that have clicked the like button.
Fabio says that he's a little bit happy that we have hay fever sniffles.
Oh.
Thanks, Fabio.
Cool. All right. Akio from Japan asks, are there specific clothes or items for Maori cultural experiences?
So you're not really needing to wear very specific clothes per se.
There's no dress code.
Yeah, there's no dress code. But I mean, if going to sort of any cultural significant place, then it is usually nicer to wear more respectful clothing. Yep. Maybe not something too, not something too revealing, I guess. Just make sure that you're wearing nice, relatively modest clothing.
Yes, and if you have any doubt, pack yourself a shawl or one of those kind of attire for ladies, so you have that versatility where you can cover up if you feel like you should have, or you want to cover up a little bit more. The extra thing I'm going to be saying is that usually the Maori experiences take part in the evening, and the weather in New Zealand gets quite cold even in summer in the evening. So you don't want to be caught with, being dressed in your like normal daylight outfit when the experience started, when it's going to end up finishing at like 9:30, 10 p.m. And, the temperature will have dropped quite a lot. So you may want to be prepared.
That's a good extra tip.
All right, we do actually list our favorite Maori experiences in New Zealand on nzpocketguide.com, so you may want to check it out. It's all free for you. Akio. All right. The next question comes from all the way. The next question comes all the way from the USA, from Hannah, and she asks, "What's the best way to save money on transport in New Zealand?"
Okay, the best way to save money on transport is to take the cheapest form of transport, which would be taking buses. So you can take the intercity bus to travel nationally, and you can take city buses to travel within cities like Auckland and Wellington, Christchurch, etc. So that's basically the cheapest way.
If you are planning to rent a car, the best way to save money on transportation in that point is to actually rent a small car. You do not need an SUV. A lot of people think you need a four-wheel drive or an SUV when traveling New Zealand. You really don't. The smaller the car, the least you're going to be spending on petrol, and also even your insurance cost is going to be lower, etc. So and obviously your daily hire rate is going to be lower as well. So hire small. You don't need big. That's for car rental.
For bus tours, if you set your VPN browser to in New Zealand rather than overseas, you will see that mostly international companies like, say, Contiki, Top Deck, those sort of companies, they will show cheaper rates for within New Zealand compared to overseas. So, play around with your VPN settings, play around with your dates as well. You'll find that sometimes it's cheaper depending on the seasons. So that's another tip.
And the last couple of tips, if you're taking the ferry, taking it at night often is slightly cheaper. And if you are looking at saving money on flight, the current average day to book your flight to get the cheapest rate on international flights, like a worldwide kind of metric. So does it work or not? You have to see that for yourself. But if you book your flight 64 days exactly before departure, usually that's the average cheapest rate. We do have plenty more budget tips for you for your trip to New Zealand. So you can check out nzpocketguide.com for all that, and then, click around and you'll find plenty of budget tips.
Yeah. Thanks for all the little hats everyone's giving us right now.
Laura got distracted by the heart. Ladies and gentlemen, stop distracting Laura. All right. Next up, the next question comes from Peter from Germany, and he asks, "Is it worth cooking my own meals while traveling in New Zealand?"
Yes, it is worth it.
Depends if you're a bad cook.
Yeah, maybe.
If you're really poor in the kitchen, just don't do it. Just get somebody else to do it for you.
Yeah, but in terms of saving money, it is a really good idea to make your own meals on the go. There are plenty of accommodations that are self-catering, specifically hostels, holiday parks. They always have communal kitchens. You can also stay in like motels where you'll have private kitchen facilities.
Like small kitchenette. They're usually a bit smaller. You won't be able to make like a fancy meal in there, but
you'll be able to do your basics. Yeah. And then have a look if you're staying obviously in Airbnbs, that sort of thing. Always look for self-catering facilities. There's often quite a lot available.
Keep in mind that some Airbnb in New Zealand start charging an extra fee if you use the kitchen, and they charge an extra cleaning fee for that, which is kind of annoying.
Fun. Or maybe just stick to the other accommodations I just
Airbnb used to be cheap, ladies and gentlemen. It's no longer cheap. It's no longer a viable way to actually save money when traveling and have a local experience. We don't meet hosts. They're mostly not locals, and it's the same price, if not more, than a hotel. I think Airbnb, I don't know how long it's going to be continuing as a local kind of experience business. It's just going to become a way to just book hotels and normal accommodation soon, I think.
We just lost a few viewers as you were bashing Airbnb. So.
I have an opinion. It's okay. You guys can leave it. I don't mind.
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. So when it comes down to food shopping, you can go to Woolworth, which is what used to be called Countdown in New Zealand. We also have New World and Pack and Save, which are the three main supermarket chain in the country where you'll be able to get all your basics to cook up a feast. We have a full guide on NZ Pocket Guide. We have things which are easy to cook on the go. We have all the food shopping guides. And we have all accommodation guides for every cities and towns that you're going to be visiting. All those places that we checked out for you so you can make the right choice for your holiday. Cool.
Fabio says his finger hurts now.
Okay. It's because he clicked all the hearts.
Okay, Fabio.
Stop distracting Laura. Okay. So Sophia from Argentina asks, are there any free activities in New Zealand which are worth doing?
Absolutely. Some of the best experiences in New Zealand are free.
I agree.
For example, seeing beautiful natural attractions like waterfalls or, say, the Pancake Rocks. The first ones that came to my mind in Punakaiki. But there's a whole long list of amazing natural attractions that you can see for free. There are a lot of walks that you can do for free as well. There are some museums across the country that are free. There are
Botanical gardens that you can walk around.
beautiful gardens in many of our cities here.
Seal colonies.
Wildlife viewing in general.
Historical sites.
Yes, historical sites.
So I know you may want some specific activities, right, that we could recommend for you, Sophia. So what we've done is on nzpocketguide.com, we have our 50 favorite free and cheap activities, and most of them are free, on the North Island, and 50 free or cheap best activities to do on the South Island. So that's a total of 100 free and cheap activities. So all you have to do is to go on nzpocketguide.com and type free and cheap on the top of the search bar, and you will find those ones. So yeah, we have like a lot in New Zealand which are absolutely awesome to do. That said, there's still the cost of buying yourself a nice pair of walking shoes so you can experience most of those, because it would involve a little bit of walking for you, Sophia. All right. Next up, we are going to be doing is it true that New Zealand has no tipping culture? Asked Grace from the UK. They're always cheap, those UK people, trying to save a few bucks here and there.
But it is true.
It is true.
Yeah, it is true. Tipping's not huge in New Zealand. You certainly do not ever feel obligated, like you have to tip type thing. But that being said, I mean, New Zealanders know what tipping is. So if you do have an experience that you are like, oh my God, the service here was exceptional, you know, you can definitely always reward through tipping, and it will be appreciated. So, I mean, it's completely up to you.
I agree. Daniel from South Africa asks, is it worth going to the Sky Tower in Auckland, or is it just another tourist trap?
I think it's quite cool. The Auckland Sky Tower, it's really good for, you're right in the city centre and getting all those, an amazing perspective of the city itself all the way out to the surrounding islands like Rangitoto Island, which is a volcanic island, for instance. So yeah, it is really cool.
The one thing I'm going to say is that if you don't want to go up the Sky Tower and don't want to pay the extra fee to go up the Sky Tower, what you can do is to head to Mount Eden, which is, just, let's say, about 15 minutes away from the Sky Tower if you have to take the local bus. And it's a nice little walk up, basically a mount, a dormant volcano. And from there, you'll be able to have some fantastic city skyline views, and you'll also be able to see some of the islands in the background as well. And you'll be able to see the Sky Tower from afar, which is quite fun as well.
Yeah.
So if you are, to be fair, if you're asking the question the way you've worded it, I'm pretty sure you already made up your mind. And if you go up the Sky Tower, you're going to feel like it's a tourist trap, right? I feel like if the question is worded like that, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, just head to Mount Eden and have the view from there and enjoy it. However, if you're really into like city skylines, city views, etc., well, that's a fun experience to do. All right, distraction game is still on, says Fabio. Oh, we also sent a €5 donation to YouTube and ourselves as well. Thank you very much, Fabio. We appreciate you being supporting us on Patreon for that long.
Fabio.
We really appreciate you.
I love the little Bravo fox, I guess it is.
It's a dog.
Fox, dog, mammal type thing.
Mammal type
I
thing.
think we could say it's a mammal. We can narrow it down to mammal.
Mammal. Here we go. Cool. Again, if you are just joining, if you have any questions about traveling in New Zealand, go nuts. We're here to answer your questions for the longest time, for another 30 minutes, in fact. Oh, yeah, it's a Shiba, like Fabio's dog. Of course it is. Yeah. I was right. It was a dog. Boom! 10 points for Gryffindor. All right.
You're definitely a Slytherin, Robert. No matter what the top suggests, you should be wearing green. Anyway.
Yes, ma'am. All right. The next question comes from Nadia from Singapore. She asks, should I skip the Glowworm caves if I've seen something similar elsewhere?
I think even if you have seen something similar, there is always something quite amazing about seeing the glowworm caves in New Zealand. So in Waitomo, that's the biggest sort of most popular glowworm caves to go to. They are magnificent. There are a couple of different glowworm caves there, and they all had their unique experiences, which we have talked about on this channel, and you can also check out on nzpocketguide.com the differences between all the cave experiences there. But yeah, I would say maybe the way that you're asking the question, it's more like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy that. So that's really up to you. But I mean, from our perspective,
I have a different answer. So from your perspective, that's what
yeah,
you're saying.
from my perspective, although I've seen many different glowworm caves in New Zealand, I'm always impressed by each one that I visit.
Okay, so what I will say is that if you've seen something similar elsewhere, and obviously I don't know any other glowworm caves around the world, I will say, and you're still interested in that, but you just don't want a repeat of the same experience, I will do the experience in a widely different way. I will do something like blackwater rafting or caving in Waitomo, which will combine basically cave exploration, jumping in a little waterfall, like kind of crawling around all the underground, labyrinth of Waitomo, and then also seeing the glowworm. So you ensure that the experience can be widely different. Another way to make it really different is to head to something which is much less crowded, like the Tano glowworms, for example, or some of the many free glowworm caves or areas you can check out in New Zealand. So that's the way I personally would do it. If you have any doubts that you probably already had a similar experience in your life. To find out all the different options to see glowworms, you can head to nzpocketguide.com, and in the search bar, just type glowworms, and we list all the different places in New Zealand, free and paid for, where you can actually see the glowworms. All the information on NZ Pocket Guide is available for free to you, so check it out. There's nothing to lose.
Nothing, I tell you.
Nothing to lose. All right. Wow, 8 likes. That's the most like we've had in a very long time since we changed that format. All right, another hot take right here.
I just want to have a quick sip of water
How
first
dare
before
you?
we move on to the next
This
question.
is a reusable water bottle, something that people often forget to pack in New Zealand, according to Laura. So I like that. I'll have some.
Do you want some?
Yeah, well, you know.
Fresh tap water from New Zealand.
Spring water.
From the local spring.
Nice. Okay, people don't like us hydrating. We lost half of viewership.
Oh,
Stop
gross.
drinking, Laura. Oh my God.
I guess people have like phobias or something about that. I bet that's a thing.
Hydrophobia?
Yeah, like it's the same like when you hear the sound of people eating, it might be like you hate the sound of people drinking.
Okay, get over it. Moving on. Oh God, I do have a heart, I promise. All right, next question. So Alex from Canada asks, are Hobbiton tours overpriced or do they live up to the hype?
Well, I think there's no denying that they're overpriced. However, it depends, right? If you are a Lord of the Rings fan, then, I mean, you're probably like, I don't care. It is worth it. I'm going there. And it is. It's a really fun experience. As a Lord of the Rings fan myself, I have loved going to Hobbiton. So, I mean, but of course, we would all prefer it was a bit cheaper.
So for me, which is not a Lord of the Rings fan, going to visit, like Hobbiton and doing all the different tours. So I was lucky enough to do like the daylight tours, the evening tours, the meal, and all those kind of things, right? I still think that there is something quite magical around kind of walking into a fantasy realm. It's make believe, but it does still look really cool, and there's a lot of attention to detail and all that. So I still really enjoyed it, but I do agree. If budget is center of mind for you, and you're not necessarily a crazy Lord of the Ring kind of nerd, you may feel like it was an experience that you could have done without, and you may feel, oh, I'd rather spend that amount of money on something else. So yeah, overpriced. Yeah, I mean, any licensed thing in the world, right? From an experience to a book to a pair of socks with the face of a little wizard and a scar. It's always overpriced because you have to pay for the license. But if you are a fan, you will kind of cherish the opportunity of being able to walk into the realm of that said, movies and universe. We do actually have a full Hobbiton videos where you can see the full tour and the full evening tour on the channel. So you may want to check that out on YouTube. Just type Hobbiton and then NZ Pocket Guide in the YouTube search bar, and you'll be able to see the full experience and see if you think that's worth your money or not. The best way to evaluate is to check it for yourself. And so that's why we created all those videos for, about 370 experience in New Zealand, where we have full on way too long videos with us being way too excited, so you actually have a real feel of what the experience is like.
And the footage is quite candid as well, I'd say.
Candid. Yes, we don't try to make advertisement videos, that's true. All right, cool. So we have an extra 30 minutes with you all. If you have any questions, the live chat is all yours. Any questions to do with traveling in New Zealand or any of the South Pacific Islands mentioned below as well, we're happy to answer all of that. Remember, it's our last show of the year. So if you're planning on traveling early in the new year, now's the time for you to ask your questions. Don't miss it.
The peak season for traveling in New Zealand is upon us. If you
Yeah,
are one of the many coming to New Zealand for your travels, then ask your questions now.
Indeed. All right. Next question. Do I really need to take a Milford Sound cruise, or is it enough to see from the shore? Ask Thiago from Portugal.
So the Milford Sound cruise definitely gives you some really awesome perspectives of Milford Sound. Obviously, if you just go to the foreshore, you'll still get amazing views, but it will be just this one you will only get one perspective of Milford Sound. However, the drive down to Milford Sound is full of lots of really interesting stops. There's lots of amazing things to do along the way, so you can certainly fill up your time. Like the journey to Milford Sound can be more the main highlight, and then you get that view of Milford Sound at the end before, heading back home. But yeah, if you want to actually spend more time amongst the scenery of the fjord of Milford Sound itself, then the cruise is usually well worth it.
Indeed. And also, I think it's just kind of one of those iconic moments that most people report to us as that was one of my favorite things to do in New Zealand.
Yes.
So I think that it's safe to say that the vast majority of people don't regret spending the money on the Milford Sound cruise.
Yes. I think also one thing that I have heard a lot of people say is because Milford Sound is obviously really hyped up, people have these almost crazy expectations of Milford Sound. It's just you obviously enjoy it for it's a beautiful natural attraction, but it's not going to change your life. A lot of people have said to me I thought that this was going to be life-changing. I was expecting miracles to happen here. Genuinely, I have been on trips with people coming back from Milford Sound, and that's what they were saying to me.
Wow.
So maybe that's just some people, but just bear in mind that just know what to expect and don't expect crazy things.
What she said.
Not telling anyone off or anything. But I just found that was an interesting feedback.
We have a full Milford Sound guide on nzpocketguide.com. You may want to check it out. All right. The next question is, are there any hidden fees I should watch out for when booking activity? Ask Priya from New Zealand.
So, usually...
I know Priya from New Zealand. She's actually going down to the South Islands. She's been emailing us.
Okay. So, yeah.
Hi, Priya.
Hidden fees. So, usually not. However, it is good to see what is included in tours. So although you may be paying for say the standard fee to do the tour, there may be hidden fees for maybe equipment hire, extra photos.
Yes.
So if you're thinking if you expect say photo packages to be included, that's not the case for all companies, especially skydiving companies. You do have to pay extra for photos and filming, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and those kind of things is normal, right? Because if you decide that you want the filming, for example, they will literally have an extra jumper that will jump and kind of fly around you and do all that, right? So you need the extra time and skills of an extra person. That's also going to edit your video.
Yeah. So in terms of they're not exactly hidden fees, but maybe you should
extra fees,
basically just do those. That extra research to be okay, what is included? So just so you know what to expect, basically, and what you'll have to pay for when you go there, what you maybe if you don't want to pay that extra, When you're comparing companies, maybe some companies include those things compared to other companies. So you may think, oh, this company is better value, for instance.
However, when it comes down to renting cars or camper van in New Zealand, this is when there are a lot of hidden fees. So you need to check the fine print for sure. But that's a different question. If you have that question, just put it on YouTube and we'll answer it next time. All right. What's the best? Oh, yeah, here you go. What's the best way to get around New Zealand on a budget? Asks Ali from Pakistan.
All right, the best way to get around on a budget, or the cheapest way at least, is doing bus travel. So
Indeed.
going on, say, the intercity buses, it's the one main national coach for the whole of New Zealand. So yeah, that is definitely by far the cheapest way to travel around New Zealand. The great thing about that is they have different sort of passes. So they have like flexi passes, which is essentially like you pay for an amount of hours which you can sort of redeem for different trips. So if you're unsure of what your route's going to be, instead of planning out bus ticket by bus ticket or your route, you can sort of pay your flexi hours instead. They also have a travel pass, so that is actually following a set route around the country for a little bit of a discount compared to if you were to pay for individual tickets. And that's also a good way to sort of like, if you don't really know what route to take around New Zealand, well, that's sort of planned for you. So that's basically they're the cheapest ways to travel around. And again, if you take city buses within the different major cities of New Zealand, then that's also fairly cheap.
Indeed. Anthony says, you got to tell people about First Light Travel since they'll make arrangements for whatever you want do, and it's easy to do, and they take care of everything. I mean, when I came to New Zealand, they did a good job for me, and I got them through you guys. Yeah, so we mentioned like some of the good travel agencies in New Zealand on the NZ Pocket Guide. So yeah, they do a really good job First Light Travel. Can you talk to Oliver, Laura?
Yes, so Oliver is saying what to watch out for when buying a car.
That's a really good question. So when buying a car in New Zealand, sorry. Whoo, that was hard. All right, let's start again. Yeah. What is Oliver asking?
So Oliver's asking what to watch out for when buying a car.
So I'm assuming, Oliver, that you're buying a car for your working holiday in New Zealand, right? So that's usually what most backpackers do when they come to New Zealand. So the first thing to watch out for is it really a good deal, and should you buy a car in New Zealand? We usually say that if you stay in New Zealand for less than like between 4 to 6 months, then it's not the best deal for you to buy a car in New Zealand, because the time they will take you to find the right vehicle and buy it, and to then sell it at the end of your trip and get some of your money back, it's not going to be worth it for a shorter amount of time. Now, if you do stay in New Zealand for longer and you would therefore want to buy a vehicle in New Zealand, here's a couple of things that you may want to keep in mind. First up, are you planning to sleep in your vehicle, right? Are you buying car/camper van, right? If that's the case, they need to have a certification to be self-contained. And so once you look for that, make sure that you know when it will expire. We are currently in the transition mode right here in New Zealand, where the certification is changing into different requirements. So even if you buy something called a camper car, which is a small vehicle with a bed at the back, that may not get renewed as a certification. So halfway through your trip, you may not have it certified anymore. Don't worry, we have plenty of information for you on NZ Pocket Guide to help you out with that. If you go on NZ Pocket Guide, travel tips, transportation, and then buying a car/camper van, we explain all of that for you. So that's the one thing to keep in mind. If you're not planning on sleeping in your vehicle, that's actually usually the easiest way, just because there is a lot of rules around freedom camping in New Zealand. It's just not that easy and dreamy that a couple of Instagram reels make it look like. But yeah, so if you're just buying a vehicle for transportation, first up, make sure that you do a full mechanical check of the vehicle before purchasing it. A lot of people are trying to offload their cars, known as lemons, meaning cars which are going to break down very quickly, to backpackers because they just don't know any better. And that's not necessarily a nice thing to do. So if you take the car to a mechanic, they can do a full mechanical check of the car, usually for under $100. I know it seems like it's a little bit steep when you're going to want to buy a car for a few $1,000s, but that will make the difference between your car lasting the whole year and not lasting it. When you are buying a car and somebody says, don't worry, it has a WOF, which is a warrant of fitness, that absolutely does not mean that the vehicle will last a long time. Guaranteed not, right? It's just a few checkboxes that the government requires to do to get a certification to be on the road. It does not mean that the car is actually mechanically sound. So don't just take the wolf as a proof that the car will last the distance. And finally, make sure that you check what the car consumes petrol wise, because a lot of time you will have some vehicle which are slightly older, because obviously you're coming to New Zealand to buy a car for a little bit. You're not going to buy the latest model of hybrid vehicle, blah blah blah. So just do make sure that the car doesn't consume too much, because I have seen and I've had some cars which are using so much bloody petrol I should have literally taken the plane instead. So just to make sure that you do that research online. So just type the model and the year, for example, and you will have like a chart that tells you how much does it uses per like 100 kilometers. Or quite often you actually end up having an American website, so it's gallons per mile, and you have to do the conversion, which is really annoying, but that's okay. It's just a small quibble that I have. Yeah, so that's the first few things that I will check if I was to buy a car in New Zealand. Obviously, do a lot of price comparison, and do understand that if you do buy it from a more of a dealer rather than buying it from a backpacker themselves, it often comes with a mechanical warranty. So you may have that peace of mind of having a 3-month mechanical warranty or 6 months for some of the dealers. It comes at an extra price, of course. Buying it for a dealer is more expensive, but it may give you that extra peace of mind. So it's up to you to see that balance and work with your budget. Last thing to keep in mind is don't think you're going to get your entire money back as soon as you're leaving New Zealand. Selling your car will take you about 2 weeks before leaving the country, right? So you have to schedule that time for you to be able to sell your car, and you have to know that you will still take a little bit of a loss, right? So be prepared to lose between 20 to 50% of the price of the vehicle when you resell it, because that's normal. Vehicles lose their value over time, especially when they are used by backpackers which travel a lot around New Zealand, right? It's much more driving that would be a normal use of the vehicle, so they basically get worn off a little bit more. All right, that's everything that came to my mind. But again, on NZ Pocket Guide, if you go to the transportation section and then buying a car, we have many articles which details all of that and more, with like what to check. We have a step-by-step guiding guide, which is like is 3 parts, so step 1, step 2, step 3, and even actually step 4 with the insurance and everything like that. So make sure that you check all of those guides. They're written for you by people like us on the ground. And so yeah, I hope that that's basically all the resource you need to buy your car smoothly in New Zealand. Oliver, but any extra questions, go nuts, mate. We are here for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry for choking to death, by the way, at the beginning of that question.
I did get very concerned. I saw the replay on the screen of you I
know, I was really struggling. I don't know.
I was like, oh my god, that looks bad. Okay, Anthony. Bad. Anthony says, stay safe, but I'm here till the end. Thank you for giving us your very welcomed catchphrase.
We have another 20 minutes with you. Oliver says thank you as well. No problem, mate. Any extra questions, go for it. It's our last show of the year, so don't miss out. Just ask it. We are here for you for 20 minutes, so put your questions. In the meantime, we keep on going through the questions we received via mail. No, we haven't received any questions via mail. I don't think anyone ever sent
us mail. Only bank statements from the bank that we're like, please stop sending this in paper form. You can just send us an email, thank you.
I was having a bit of a joke. It's like, this is literally the only piece of mail we still receive is like a bank statement from the bank. It's kind of insane how mail kind of died. I mean, obviously deliveries of like parcel, like online shopping is much more, but mail is dead. 2025 is the year of dead mail. All right. Actually, that's not true. The only other thing that we receive, but obviously we haven't received it this year, is voting papers.
Yeah, that's true.
You actually get that through mail.
Yeah.
All right. Question from Yasmin from Egypt asking, are petrol stations common or should I plan my fuel stops?
Petrol stations are common in certain areas of New Zealand, but I would say if you've got any long stints of driving, it's probably worth to do some planning for your petrol stops. We have been in some certain situations ourselves when we've been doing long road trips where we've been like getting the red light for the petrol coming on and not knowing when the next fuel station is, and they can often be, not too close together. So
I was about to mention that. So there are some areas of New Zealand which have like very widely spread petrol stations. So I'm thinking about the Fiordland National Park, the West Coast region, the
Forgotten
Eastcape.
World
Yes,
Highway.
the Eastcape of the Northern End, for
Between
example.
Towport and Napier.
Yeah, the Eastcape of the
Yes.
Northern End. Yeah, so those kind of areas sometimes have widely spread kind of petrol stations. So what I usually say is that if you are driving more than 3 hours, just fuel up before your trip.
Yeah.
So like that you're safe and you know that you kind of safe with that. We actually were having a discussion with that about that with Liz, which is one of our Patreon supporter. You can join them on Patreon. We are helping you plan your trip. Basically, if you join us on Patreon, it's a lot of fun. Get plenty of perks, and the one important part of enjoying your road trip in New Zealand is to have peace of mind and being able to enjoy the sceneries, right? If you end up being stressed because, oh my gosh, the light is on or anything like that, you're just going to ruin your road trip. And New Zealand offers some of the most beautiful road trips in the world. So just plan ahead if you're driving more than 3 hours and just fuel up beforehand.
Never do the mistake that we have done, which is like, oh, we're okay for fuel. We'll just wait till the next town, and then the next town never seems to come. So if you see a fuel stop and you are questioning like, oh, should I go now? Then you probably should.
We never got caught running out of petrol.
We haven't run out of petrol, but
Laura got stressed. Yes,
I get stressed when
but
it's
we have
red
never
light.
run out of petrol.
Red light for a good half an hour, and then you're like, oh my god, any time now, any second now, we're gonna be. Yeah.
It stresses Laura so much. It's beautiful. All right. I almost gotta do that on purpose now. Okay. What's the easiest way to stay connected to Wi-Fi in New Zealand? Ask Manuel from Spain.
The easiest way would be to get a local SIM card,
Yeah.
mainly so you can, connect to the local network and use sort of a data plan to stay connected. That would be the most reliable and therefore easiest way. So yeah, local SIM cards are, for instance, Skinny.
Yeah. I was about to list them for you.
Yeah, go
Skinny
ahead.
Mobile, Spark, and One NZ are like the three main options. Then you have 2 degrees, but they have a little less good coverage.
Yeah. So what Robin said, we do have articles on nzpocketguide.com which compares the different phone networks and their different data plans, etc. But if you did want to try and go to all the free Wi-Fi spots, usually the free public Wi-Fi's are not that good or reliable. But usually if you are staying in an accommodation, that's not a cheap accommodation. Usually not. Hostel Wi-Fi is usually not that good, but if you're staying in more like, say, hotels and that sort of thing, they tend to be a little bit more reliable. So that is an option as well.
Yeah, you also have coffee shops and libraries usually which have free Wi-Fi.
Yes.
But yeah, we do have guides on cell phone coverage in New Zealand on nzpocketguide.com. So check it out, my friend. Okay, we have X is this. Did you do that on purpose? The X is S. That says, I used your guide on camper vans and ended up with Wender Chrysson. It was fantastic, much better and even cheaper than the biggest brands you find on the comparison site. So thank you so much.
Oh,
That's
nice.
lovely. Yes, so a lot of the time in New Zealand, people end up going with only a handful of companies, which, spoiler alert, are all owned by one big corporation. And so that's why some of those comparison sites only have, like, let's say 5 brands, right? But there are many, many, many more in New Zealand, and a lot of them are better and cheaper, as you say. So yeah, our job and the reason why we're doing this guide and why we are on location for you guys to do this guide and we're doing our research and etc. is to show you a lot of different options, so you may be able to find some other cool place. Another company that I really do like, although they do slightly smaller camper van than the company you mentioned, is Epic Campers. So if you guys are considering doing camper vans, Epic Campers is pretty cool in New Zealand as well. But yeah, hey, we stoked that we actually helped you, my friend. That's awesome. Are you still in New Zealand currently traveling, or are you back home right now? And if you're back home, what was the best part of your trip?
Yeah, and thanks for giving us the recommendation as well that you enjoyed your experience with Wender Chrysson, so we can know that it's good to keep on recommending.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, we can't try them every year either, right? So we try them, we try
sporadically.
Exactly, sporadically, like different car rental and camper van companies, right? So we don't have the budget for it, right? As you notice, you got all our tips for free, mate. So therefore we don't make that much money, and we don't just recommend the big brands, so we don't get paid by those guys. So yeah, it is good to actually hear feedback from
To
you
hear
guys. It really does
different
help.
perspectives of those companies as well. So yeah.
I'm still not recovering from that cough, guys. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
drinking a lot.
we need to get you some nice New Zealand Manuka honey.
Oh, Manuka honey. Cool. Is oh, I found that nickname very irritating to try to pronounce. I should not try to pronounce it. Cool.
Yeah. So any more questions, any
Yeah,
more comments, let us
yeah,
know
feedback.
in the
Yeah,
live chat. And in the meantime, do we have another question?
of course we have two more. Okay, what is the one thing I should what is the one? You see, the nickname was fine. It's just me. I can't speak today. That's it. Okay, what's the one thing I should research before my trip to New Zealand? Asked Chloe from Australia.
Well, whether you're from Australia or anywhere in the world, I think the biggest thing that is worth researching is the biosecurity rules for
Yeah.
coming into New Zealand. So, New Zealand does have strict biosecurity rules. So, when you're arriving, you are sort of your luggage is all checked for food items, dirt, any soils, anything that could be a risk to the New Zealand environment or health, all that sort of thing. So there we do have very extensive videos as well as articles on nzpocketguide.com as well as on YouTube right here on our channel.
That's probably the subject we receive the most questions about, just because that's that stress of getting into the country. After that, you'll be fine, right? But it's just that stress of like being able to, get in the country with all the stuff that you want, and also you're packing your bag, so make sure you don't pack things that you don't, you shouldn't pack or anything like that, right? Aside from that, traveling in New Zealand is really safe. There's a lot of things to do. Even if you haven't planned a lot, you'll be able to stumble upon a lot of amazing things to do in the country. So why not? Why not just research the one thing which is set with strict rules and research the biosecurity? That's the one thing that we'll do if I was to research as well. So yeah, Laura said exactly what I was about to say. Okay, Oliver says, is New Zealand accent hard to understand? So I think we're going to have very different point of view, you and I, because I'm obviously not native English speaker and you are. So let's start with you.
I'll give the short answer. I think it is not difficult to understand because most New Zealanders speak slowly and their accent isn't really, really strong.
Yeah. If you are understanding me doing all those videos and speaking that fast, I don't think you're going to have a hard time understanding the New Zealand accent. I've traveled and worked in about 16 different countries around the world. And I've experienced with a lot of Middle America countryside kind of accents and Canadian accents and Australian accents and all that. And I never really had an issue with understanding New Zealanders. The one thing that I've issue understanding is sometimes the kind of expressions, right, that they will be using, or the kind of weird words that they will be using. For example, they're going to say like gendals, which means flip-flop. They will say gumboots, which means kind of those rubber boots, Wellingtons that you say in the UK. Yeah, so that those kind of words, and also some kind of meaning of what they actually mean in their sentences is the thing that I sometimes struggle with. Where for example, they're going to say, yeah, nah, you hear yes and no in there, right? So you kind of like, oh, it means maybe. It categorically means no, for example, right? So just those kind of like expressions is more the thing that you kind of struggle with. But when it comes down to the accent, again, if you understand my like rifleman speaking, like I'm just talking so bloody fast, then you should be 100% fine understanding Kiwis when in New Zealand.
Yeah, listening to Robin on this channel is like a boot camp to get you ready for
I do it on
hearing
purpose.
any accents that you come across when you are traveling in New Zealand. If you can learn to understand Robin, you can understand anything you hear.
Silver lining, ladies and gentlemen. Silver lining. All right. That's a great question, Oliver. Though I loved it. I love the lovely comment from Ice, and also I do like the questions from you, Oliver. And obviously Anthony is always here. Fabio, I love the Shiba dog. Of course, he's our unofficial producer. Let's remember that.
Yes, we do remember.
So yeah,
we remember always.
All right, next question that we have is how to avoid the crowds at popular spots like Queenstown, ask Kai from China.
Well, Queenstown is probably the busiest spot in New Zealand.
Because it's too small for the amount of tourists that gets there, yeah.
But way to avoid the crowds, I'm thinking more not just for Queenstown, but say if you're going to Milford Sound, which is also very popular, or say Lake Tekapo, which is a small place that's very popular. Arriving in the early morning or late afternoon is usually avoids most of the crowds, so that's a good way to avoid some crowds. Traveling in the shoulder seasons, or the low seasons, to be fair. Queenstown is quite popular in the low season because it's also a ski town, but it's far less busy compared to summer. So basically avoiding the months of December, well, November, let's say November, December, January, February, and March. If you avoid those months, then usually it's a lot quieter compared to that sort of peak season month. Anything else to avoid the crowds?
I think, definitely avoiding the peak month is quite important because that's going to make your holiday much better. But yeah, aside from that, wake up early in the morning, mates.
Hit the road. Hit the road quickly. Get there in the morning. Yeah, honestly, like we've been to some really beautiful places or like prime tourist spots that have been amazing if it's just like basically before 9 a.m.
Yeah, just the two of us. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So that's all the questions that we had right now. So we have another few minutes to hang out with you guys. So if you have any last minute questions, go nuts. Aside from that, we'll jump on the Patreon show. While you guys are coming up with your last minute questions, as we're wrapping up this hour, you may have noticed that we haven't asked you to click any buttons, engage, or any of those kind of things. That's because we don't like to kind of like hassle you all video long to do those kind of things. But if you wanted to do any of that, click on any of the algorithm feeding stuff, just do it. That's always helpful for us. You also know that we're doing all our work free of charge. So if you feel like supporting us, you can head on Patreon, even just for 1 month. It's always great to support us in that way. Aside from that, you may head to the website nzpocketguide.com to plan your trip to New Zealand. And, that's always good to kind of give us a little bit of traffic in the era of the AIs and stuff like that, supporting what we do. Aside from that, just keep on enjoying New Zealand. Have fun. Tell people that New Zealand is fun, and keep on planning your lovely trip.
Yeah. Beautiful words, Robin.
Oh, beautiful words. Is it really? Is it really beautiful word? Or is it too fast and a boot camp to understand the Kiwi accent, Laura?
Now that your boot camp is over, people, you can get on with your lives. Enjoy New Zealand.
But so that kind of wraps up our 2025 years of video for you in New Zealand.
2024.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
2025 is next year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, so I hope that you like this new format. I think we're going to keep it for about a year. We like to change things around a little bit. We've been doing those live shows for many years now. So, yeah, I think I like this new format. We're just doing like the questions like that, just, doing vertical stuff. Then I can kind of cut them just the questions so people like to get it. So, yeah.
How much time should a proper backpacker spend at work, says Oliver?
That's a really good question. All right, so a proper backpacker, depends how proper you think you are, but so a New Zealand work day is about 8 hours. A New Zealand work week is about 40 hours. Now, when it comes down to a gap year, the split is usually good when it comes down to just a little over half. Here you go. Pooh, that was a hard one to come out. So if you're planning to come to New Zealand for 12 months, plan 6 to 7 months worth of work. If you're planning to come to New Zealand for 6 months, just plan about like 3 months worth of work. Something like that. That often gives you the right ratio of being able to save enough money to travel around New Zealand and also be able to experience the country enough. Because let's say you're coming for a year, right? Let's say you are going to be working for about 7 months. That gives you a good 5 months to explore New Zealand, which is a lot of time. Sprinkle in obviously most of the free activities to do in New Zealand, do a lot of hiking and all of that, and you'll be able to make it with even just the minimum wage earned for 7 months. Reminding you that the minimum wage in New Zealand is a little over $26 at the moment, so you're still going to be able to save quite a lot of money, especially if you live on a chip. So most backpackers in the country can make it with working for a little over half of the time they spend in the country and still be able to enjoy New Zealand. That said, it also depends a lot on the amount of savings that you have. We have had some backpackers in our Patreon group which have had tremendous success in just working about a third of the time in New Zealand and doing mostly travel, because what they decided to do is, well, I'm going to work as much as I can back home to save a lot of money because I'm only going to have a one chance, one opportunity, mum spaghetti in New Zealand. And so at that That was so cringy. And so at that point, you may want to save up a lot and then kind of do as much as you can in New Zealand, which is really awesome. Now, when it comes down to splitting that amount of work in New Zealand, you may want to split that, like, let's say, 7 months worth of work in like 3.5 months in one location and 3.5 months in another location, maybe one in the North Island, one in the South Island. So that allows you to also be able to explore New Zealand in a different way with your coworkers and the friends you're making at work when you kind of settle for, 3 to 4 months in one location or the other, so that you also get to integrate yourself a little bit on the everyday life of New Zealand in 2 different spots and experience what New Zealand has to offer during the weekends as well when you're not working.
Yeah.
So that's how I would split, and how a lot of the people that kind of report to us or kind of plan a trip with us, etc., usually split their gap year between work and travel in New Zealand.
And that's what proper backpackers do.
Proper backpackers. Yeah,
Proper
otherwise you're not a
backpackers.
proper backpacker. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of people that come for a gap year and they try to work the whole 12 months and they just rush around New Zealand for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not a good
There
experience.
are a
You're not
lot
gonna-
of
it's a way-
non-proper
yeah.
backpackers.
That's
Yeah,
true.
they will come to Auckland, they will stay in Auckland for the vast majority of the year and then leave to do like a 2-week trip around New Zealand.
Yeah.
Insanity.
That was a great question, Oliver. I love that question as well.
Yeah.
Oof, he's on fire. I like you, Oliver. I can't wait to see you next year in the live show again. If you decide to pop in, there's no obligation. You're not shackled to us at all. Right. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for this live show. Next is our Patreon 1-hour Q&A, so that's going to be fun. Oliver says, thank you, guys. I'm coming to New Zealand in March. Greeting from Slovakia. Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Nice. I have stumbled into Slovakia once in my life. That was fun.
Whoa, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Oh, I was in Slovenia, and then, yeah, Slovakia was nearby. That's
Cool.
basically what happened to me. Cool. Yeah, Oliver. Well, until March, we're going to have many other live shows. So feel free to jump in, ask your questions in the comments of all the stuff, or join us on Patreon if you feel like it, just for even a month or something. And you'll be able to interact even more with us, which is a lot of fun. We got like secret Facebook group. We got group calls, which we're doing right now. We're going to do an hour group call, which is kind of fun to interact over that, and etc. So, yeah. And you may even hear Fabio, which you saw in the live show before, talking your ears off about the right hiking shoes to hire, because he's Austria's most famous hiking shoes expert. I can tell you that right now. Should we do the last question?
One last question.
All right.
Ashish is saying, how
Wait,
long...
do it again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so one last question. Ashish is
No.
saying...
Ashish is saying, how long should a family trip be for the first timer in New Zealand, Laura?
Well, ideally, 3 weeks to a month.
Yes. So usually you need to account for about 2 weeks per island, especially if you're traveling with kids, because you're going to need to be able to, have the extra leeway.
Have
for
some
them.
rest days.
Exactly.
Yes.
All of those kind of things. So usually it's about 3 weeks to 4 weeks. That said, if you head to nzpocketguide.com, we have a section which is called Trip Ideas. And in there, we literally have made family trip family itineraries for a month and family itineraries for 3 weeks, so you can check those itineraries and see for yourself if you think your family will be able to cope with that pace of the trip, because you ultimately your family better than what we know it, right? So if you check those sample itineraries and you feel like you can kind of follow them, again, the itinerary is up to you, right? You change it as much as you want. It's just a piece of written content, but it should tell you like, okay, yeah, I think that my family and my kids can handle that or not.
Yeah.
So it's nzpocketguide.com. There's a link in the description, and then you click on trip ideas. Then you have like travel style, and you have family. And then when you click on there, you'll have like different length, or you can just do trip ideas and then 3 weeks, and then you click on the family itinerary, or trip ideas and then 4 weeks, or 1 month, sorry, and then click on family in there. So yeah, but that should be the kind of the right amount of time for you, Ashish. Good. Cool. All right. Now we're wrapping it up, guys. That was a nice, sneaky one. Extra question, Ashish. I appreciate you. All right, we see you in the new year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Merry Mate, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, as she says, if you have less time, should you limit to one island? Yeah, I would
Yes.
suggest you only do like 2 weeks in one island, etc. We continuously get people telling us, "Oh, I wish I had longer time in New Zealand," or "I wish I only did one island with the time I had because I wanted to see more," etc. So absolutely, for sure. But yeah, check our itineraries, and you have plenty of samples. That's great for you. All right, now we're saying goodbye again. Bye bye.
Toodles.
Toodle. Thank you all for all the questions. That was absolutely great.